Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Councillors, thank you very much for taking the time to be here at the council meeting. Before I get started, I'll do the acknowledgement to country, as is standard practice for the Shire of Esperance. The Shire of Esperance acknowledges the Noongar and Ngadju people who are the traditional custodians of this land and their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we extend that respect to other Aboriginals today. Like I said, thank you very much for being here. We will get into the meeting. So I will start off with the attendance. So we have 8 councillors here today. One being a return councillor, 3 being new councillors for their first council meeting. So welcome. I know you've been through a week of some fairly good information gathering, and the existing councillors have been through some renewals on that information, so thank you for your time this week as well. Apologies and notifications for granted leave of absence. Do you have?
So just to advise, we got an apology from Councillor Mickle. Councillor Mickle's unfortunately had to go back to hospital. He's got a little operation back on his finger again. So yeah, unfortunately he's been an apology.
No further apologies. So applications for leave of absence. Do I have any?
Yes, I'd like to apply for leave from 12th of November to the 20th of November for medical reasons. I have to go to Perth. Thank you.
Is there any other councillors with leave of absence? Cool. I'd like to put a leave of absence, if I may, from Saturday the 30th of October until Sunday the 7th of November. Is that all? I'll now move to item 5.
We just need to move around.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can I have someone move that motion? Councillor Hobart, Councillor O'Donnell second. All those in favour? I'm learning as I go. So there'll be a few learning steps. That's why I have the CEO on my side with a long stick. We'll move to item 5, which is announcements by person presiding without discussion. So if I could call Paige Fillmore up to the front here, please. I'd like to introduce everyone to Paige Fillmore. Hi Paige, how are you?
I am good, how are you?
Look, I'd like to congratulate Paige. She submitted the artwork for the WA local government showcasing pixels for Esperance, and it was extremely successful. Not only did her artwork receive an award on behalf of the Esperance Senior High School, but Esperance was also chosen as the overall winner for the Showcasing Pixels. So congratulations. The Showcasing Pixels art competition is run by Wildborough as part of an annual local government convention and was held in Perth in this year. The winning artwork is displayed on a 45-metre high display in Yagan Square in the middle of Perth, which does look fantastic. I've seen a couple of photos of it come back this way. The artwork is not just about the scenery and natural beauty, which we all know and love about Esperance, but depicts 2 large hands of the community, which hold up the natural beauty in the artwork and emphasises the community is what makes Esperance such a special place to live. So it was a fantastic piece of work. We all got to see it lots, and we'd like to give you just a small token of regret. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paige. Congratulations. I'll move on to item 6.1, declarations of financial interest. Do I have any councillors with declaration of financial interest? Declarations of proximity interest. Councillor Horn.
Yes, I believe because item 12.11, it's the Blue Haven Second Beach development. I live at Blue Haven, so I believe I have a proximity interest, so I'll probably step out.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Is there any other proximity interest? Mr Walker? Are there any further proximity interests? Declarations of impartiality interest. Councillor Graham?
Yeah, an impartiality interest in 2.3.1 to do with the fire brigades, as my brother's on the Fire Brigade Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Mr Walker? Liquid. Thank you, Mr Walker. Are there any other impartiality interests? I'll also declare an impartiality interest in item 2.3.1, the Audit Committee Bushfire Advisory Committee Goldfields Entrance Country Zone, as I'm a Deputy Bushfire Control Officer here in Esperance, so named in that report. Rightio, number 7, which is public question time. I have a list here of some people. Will we start with Dr Newkirk? You're listed for some questions. Can you please take the podium?
There's a little start button on it too.
That way, yeah. Sorry, as I meant to, or neglected to say in the opening that this council meeting will be live streamed, just so that people are aware of that point. There is a notice on the front.
Thank you. My question is related to answers provided to questions I put to council in September. They're listed on page 11 of your notes. Item 12.3.1, I asked about a payment of $144,397 to Crossview for the tanker jetty, and the answer says this is the last payment for construction of the new jetty. Now, my memory says that once all payments for the new jetty construction were completed, that the technical design of the jetty would be released. I have looked today on the Shire website. I find there's a lot of drawings there and they're all marked not to be used for construction. So my question is, when can we actually see the final design that was used in construction?
Mr Walker?
Yes, we do have the ASCON construction drawing. We can get them online as soon as possible. So you can get access to them, there's no issue.
Thank you, Mr Walker. Is that satisfied? Thank you, Mr Newkirk. Dr Newkirk. Andrew Gregory, did you have a question in relation to your... If you would like to come up and... It's just that during a council meeting we can't take questions at the actual... So this is your opportunity to ask a question.
Thank you. This is going to be terrifying. So.
My best advice to you is breathe.
My first question is, I've got a lot of questions, so will you let me know if I've gone on too long?
I will give you some leeway to ask your questions.
All right. First question is page 58. And also I didn't know I had to do it in questions, so I've just got a lot of scribbles here and piecing it together. My first question is about how it is compatible, because halfway down that page it says it's a position of planning services that the proposed holiday house is compatible with the surrounding residential development, so long as it's adequately managed and any conditions applied as part of an approval adhered to. So the question of how is it compatible with the surrounding residences is my query.
No worries. Ms. Phillips, can you...
I'd like to refer that one to Mr Henley.
Through the chair, it's considered compatible because it's a use that can be considered in the residential zone, and the residential zone is actually designed to have a number of incidental uses within it, but it is subject to conditions being applied that may manage the use appropriately.
So did you understand that? That the planning
Yes.
does allow for that to be there?
Yes, so with that being managed correctly, I understand that the property manager will be the first line of contact. But thinking about that, will I then be like the caretaker of that property? Because unless somebody lets them know that there's a problem at the property, how will anyone know?
Through the chair, whilst the property manager is the first point of contact, there is the ability to also lodge a complaint with the Shire if they believe the conditions aren't being adhered to.
So it would be a matter of keeping a logbook on the incidences and how timely they were adhered, were dealt with, sort of thing, and then after a considerable time then coming and proposing that it's not being managed correctly?
Through the chair, there is no level which you need to achieve to make a complaint to the Shire. If you believe they aren't abiding by it, you can contact the Shire.
Okay.
We will investigate.
Okay. Can I ask what is nuisance issues and how that's relating to noise? I'm sure it's in the Shire information somewhere, but I haven't had a look.
Through the chair, nuisance can be noise, it can be odour. There are a range of things that form nuisance, which are controlled by the conditions that have been placed on the development.
So, what is considered reasonable noise?
Through the chair, the noise regulations stipulate what is considered reasonable noise. There are certain thresholds which are based on the adjoining land uses and on the time of day.
That would be something that would have to be looked into and a copy provided.
Okay. Yeah. This might not I'll try and question this. I remember one time in the last month or two, I rang the police about 10 o'clock at night and I said, I don't know if it's excessive noise, and then I had a conversation with the police officer and it was deemed that it's up to me what is classed as excessive noise. And I said, well, I can still hear it, but it's not doing my head in, so therefore it wasn't noted as excessive noise.
Yep. So
that's just what was a little bit concerning. I'm not sure if I just asked this. What is the time frame which is considered reasonable for a response from the property manager to then have to contact the second contact number to then contact them?
Through the chair, that is really your choice on when you go through the different numbers. We don't mandate any sort of time frame on that.
Okay, so a reasonable time for a tenant to respond to something like a noise issue would be, say, 2 hours?
Through the chair, it really does depend on the time of day and who's actually available, and be it a Shire response or be it a police response.
Yeah, okay. From my own point of view, I feel that our privacy, whether there's a screen on the balcony or not, is still impacted by the property becoming a holiday home, as we are unable to keep as constant monitor on the comings and goings from the property. And so we're feeling that maybe we would have to invest in some other things. Is there any subsidy from the Shire for us to have to compensate ourselves for the nuisance that is caused?
Through the chair, the requirement for additional screening on the balcony will address, in accordance with the R codes, the overlooking aspect of it. that is really the main avenue in which to try and improve the amenity of the situation.
So within the policy that we have, or the policies that we have, we can put the screening on the balcony. But I would think anything that you do within your property would be at your choice.
Yeah, from the driveway, I guess I still feel that my daughter's, the bedrooms at the back are still quite looked upon, but being there at the next door neighbour's property today, I realised that 14A is quite impacted by visual anyway, so I presume that means that that's, being honest, that level doesn't matter to the Shire, the privacy from window to window. Is that correct?
I think all those things, now that the Shire and the councils have been out there to have a look, I think all of those things that we've seen today and all those items that you've addressed will certainly be taken into consideration by the councillors when they do their deliberations on the item that's here in front of you. But privacy is something that we do look at, and it is something that is considered during this time.
Yeah, I think from our point of view, the noise is more a consideration, but yeah, privacy and security. The last question I have is about the garaging of cars, because I was reading in the Shire notes that there was a limit to the amount of vehicles allowed on the property in accordance to what the property was approved for. It's usually that garage only has one car, and then other people will park in a line down the driveway, and then visitors will park on our verge. That's the trend. It seems too far for people to walk to go from the car park across the road into that's just been the way it's been. We've never complained about we haven't liked it, but we haven't complained about people on the verge. It's just the way it is. So my question is just so we can be vigilant, and when there's how many cars we should expect at the property, and vehicles and campers and jet skis and extras.
Do we have limits on vehicles, or is
No,
that something that...
through the chair, there is a minimum of 2 bays for a residential building.
Yep.
We don't actually put a limit on the number of cars that can be parked on the site.
My suggestion about the parking on your verge would be to approach the owner of the property and ask that they put in their management plan or in their notice that goes out to the people at the B&B that they're not to park anywhere other than in the carport or across the road in the car park. I'm sure within the management plan and within the details that they give any prospective clients that come to that, if that was implemented within that through them, then that would be a direction that they're given.
Okay. Just to add on to that, as much of it's maybe not a question, I did notice in the short-term Esperance Shire short-term lease agreement, under vehicle parking, it says that the tenant agrees to use the parking spaces provided and not to park on lawn or garden areas on the property, on the street verge or street outside the property. That's on page 64. So I'm just wondering if that means from this particular property that would mean that they would have to use the garage, or are they allowed to be having like the 2 families and the 3 vehicles and that type of thing? And
Through the chair, under their short stay accommodation management plan, there would need to be parking in the parking bays on the driveway, not on garden areas or verge areas. That's part of their operational procedures, which we approved as part of this plan.
So that should be in their management plan, and that should be pointed out to the owner of the property and certainly to the managers.
Thank you for your time.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Pearcey, would you care to ask questions? In relation to...
Thank you. Look, it's just a general question. Last year I discovered that Jeannie Stewart was the first woman elected to Esperance Council, and that was now 51 years ago. At that time, of course, it was difficult for women to even nominate, even think about nominating on council. It was about the time of women chaining themselves to bars so that they could drink in the bar of a hotel. That's what the situation was like. So it had to take a lot of courage for Jeannie to even nominate. She became elected in 1970. My question is, can council please consider commissioning a bust of Jeannie Stewart for the foyer? I think it would be a very apt act for you to do. Thanks a lot. I'll
Thank you
leave
very
it for
much,
you. I don't need an answer.
Thank you very much, Mr Pearson. Oh, there are no further questions from? No worries. Get that right enough. Item 8, public addresses and deputations is done. Item 9, petitions. Item 10, confirmation of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting? You have? Do you have any questions for it? Do I have a mover that we accept the minutes? Councillor O'Donnell. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Oborne. Is any further discussion required? All those in favour? Steve and Rob, you're not wanting to vote on it? Acceptance of the minutes? Thank you.
Was eight,
Eight, yeah. Delegates' reports without discussion? Oh, the delegates' reports are up there. Look at that. Okay, we'll go in order that they are up on the screens. Councillor Oborne, do you have anything to add? Councillor Flanagan?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor O'Donnell? You did. Councillor Graham? Councillor De Haas? Councillor Horan? Councillor McMullen?
As table, thank you.
And mine are as tabled, thank you. And Councillor Mickles also had a very busy month. Has he got a hospital visit in there? Right now, we'll move into item 12, which is matters matters requiring a determination of council. Item 12, we'll start with external services on 12.1.1. Yeah, yep. On page 16. Are there any questions in relation to? No questions. Do I have someone that will move the motion? Thank you, councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor De Haas. I'll ask the mover to Councillor Flanagan to speak to it. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Chair.
Do I have a speaker against? Any amendments or speakers for? Take it you're ready to vote. Those in favour? 7-0. I'll just let you know, Councillor Horan, that item 12.1.1 was passed 7-0. Go to 12.1.2, Regional Development Assessment Panel nomination of members on page 34. I take it we need to actually determine who they are. Do I have any nominees? Councillor McMullen, you wish to nominate yourself?
Yes.
Do I have anyone else that would wish to nominate for the DAP? I'll put my hand up for that. I was on there last time, so. I'm allowed to do that.
Yes.
And we also need 2 alternate members for the DAP. Do I have 2 nominations? Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor De Haas. Was there anyone else that wished to nominate? No worries. With that said, do I have anyone that wishes to move the motion? Councillor Oval. Seconded. Councillor McMullen, do you wish to speak to it? Councillor Oval? Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Do I have any speakers against? Take it you're ready to vote. Those in favour? 7-0. 8-0. Because he's back in. Item 12.3.1, which is the endorsement of the Bushfire Risk Management Plan on page 40. Does anyone have any questions in regards to this? Do I have anyone that wishes to move the motion on page 42? Councillor Graham, do I have a seconder for that?
So we just need to clarify what is.
Oh, sorry,
what
yeah.
is moving.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that council endorses the Shire Bushfire Risk Management Plan 2021-2026.
No worries. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Horan, thank you very much. Do you wish to speak to?
Oh no, just thanks for those involved in putting this together and getting a little bit of money to go towards funding some of those strategies. So thank you.
Do I have a speaker against? Seconder, do you wish to speak to it? Do I have a speaker for? I take it you're ready to vote for it. All those in favour? So that's 8. Item number 12.1.4, development application oversized shed on lot 9, Common Road, Pink Lake. Councillor Oval.
Mr President, I would like to move an en-bloc motion, 12.1.4, 12.1.5 and 12.1.7, all being development applications for oversized outbuildings.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, I take it that you second it. Okay, cool. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I would love to do all 3 of these at once because all 3 of them have no objections from the adjoining landowner. All 3 of them are for legitimate garaging needs and all 3 of them are consistent with previous decisions.
Do I have a speaker against? Seconder, do you wish to speak to it?
I concur with Councillor Oborne's comments. Thank you.
Are there no speakers against or amendments? I take it you are ready to vote. Those in favour? Yep. So we'll take those as voted. Where are we? 57. Page 57.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Like I said, I'll try to improve as I go along. If the meeting's long enough, I might nearly get there. So item 12.1.6, which is a development application, which is a change of use dwelling to holiday house at 14B Walker Street, West Beach. Councillor Oborne.
I would like to move a motion to lay this item on the table until council can develop a policy around the use of Airbnbs in the Shire.
Can we put some sort of timeline around that other than, do we need to put?
Can maybe just seek some clarification from Mr Henley as to what those ramifications are, because we do have some statutory timeframes on when we need to make planning decisions. So.
Through the chair, if this application is with the Shire for more than 90 days, the proponent can take a deemed refusal and go straight to SAT.
How long is it?
Through the chair, application was made on the was made on the 25th of August.
60 days, so that gives you. That would give you
And I also bring to attention that council already has a policy for holiday houses, which is where a lot of the conditions come from.
Through the chair, can I ask a question? Is it possible to just do this for 12 months, trial basis? Is it?
I have.
Yes, through the chair. That is definitely something that the councillors could look at and could form part of a alternative resolution if put forward.
Are you happy to continue on with Wilbur? Okay, in that case, we'll go back to. Is that the correct procedure? We'll just go back to.
Yeah, so you're withdrawing your motion? Yes.
Okay. So we'll go back to the start of the item 12.1.6. Do I have any other further questions?
Can I just hang over to the director of the area, because the officers, after all the I guess questions that the councillors have, we have formed an alternate or a different officer's recommendation. So maybe Mrs. Phillips can run through that.
Sure, look, I'll just take you through the basics of it and Mr Henley can add to anything. The core things really for us being that since the report was put forward to council for consideration, officers have undertaken further investigations on the site, particularly in relation to the effluent disposal systems on the property. At the time that the report was written, we did not have access to some of the historical records around the installation of an alternative treatment unit at the property, which leads us to, to assume that there is a reasonable sewage arrangement at both properties. However, the report initially indicated that was not the case. So, noting that there have been some concerns and discussing some of the available opportunities within the team, we are suggesting that there is a potential to review the arrangements. The primary changes to the resolutions is taking account of the effluent disposal systems that are in effect on the property. Alternative resolution is provided there in point 2. And in addition, a proposed change to point 3 being that the final sentence or the final 3 words added to the sentence are prior to occupancy, so ensuring that a restrictive screen is installed on the property prior to anybody occupying that. There is also provision for an additional condition, being condition 13, which is around the proposed change of use and the opportunity to introduce a 1-year trial period, and that trial period, in the event of no valid complaint being received, will continue on. However, if there are valid complaints received during, in the event the council would like to effectively endorse the development, we would investigate that as Shire officers, and providing there were legitimate complaints that were substantiated, then that would be an opportunity to review or cease the proposed trial. And there is one additional advice note proposed in the arrangement, which is in relation to condition 2, occupiers of the holiday house will need to be informed of any procedure in the event of a system failure in relation to the effluent disposal system and ATU.
Which is advice note 2.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions? Councillor Flanagan?
Through you, Chair, just a question in relation to just a point you made earlier. So the recommendation that was, or the report that was put to council is in accordance with an existing policy related to short stay accommodation?
Through the Chair, that is correct.
The second question was just in relation to the SAT statutory time limit. So is that an automatic referral to SAT, or does the applicant then have to refer it to SAT?
Through the Chair, the applicant has the option to pursue it by SAT.
And what are the implications to the show if that takes place?
Through the Chair, potentially resources and the fact that a DA could quite likely be issued without a fraction of the conditions that we're putting on now.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Have anyone from the floor wishing to move a motion? Do I have advice if nobody wishes to move a motion?
Well, there needs to be a motion of some description that council needs to decide on.
Councillor
McMullen.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the amended motion as tabled. I'm not going to read 3 pages out though. It's on the screen.
So just so that everyone understands, you're moving the alternate motion that was put forward by the officers?
The alternate motion, yes.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Graham. Would you like to speak? Councillor Ogle?
That the trial period go for 6 months, not 12 months?
So the option there is if the mover and the seconder agree, we can change it, or else it would need to go, the amendment would need to go to a vote and then become the substantive motion.
Yeah, as long as there's no other ramifications that our planning department can see.
Through the Chair, the only issue I can foresee is that there are capital works required to upgrade the building, which 6 months might not give them security to actually do the works. So it could result in it being appealed because you've not given enough time to amortise the cost of doing the works to comply.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we're not in debate now, but I think for that reason, sorry, did you? No.
Just through the Chair, the introduction of the screening does state that it needs to be prior to occupancy of the property, so I believe what Mr Hinley was referring to in terms of the capital investment that needs required by the owner to meet the condition prior to occupancy, and that may be an unreasonable capital investment for a 6-month period. Just a point of clarification.
I guess based on that advice, I'm sorry, I can't accept that change, Councillor Oborne.
So we do have an amendment on the table.
Do I have an amendment on that?
I withdraw that.
Withdraw that. So I've had Councillor McMullen move the motion. I've had Councillor Graham second the motion. Councillor Mullen, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I think this provides a good balance, and obviously having the expiration date on this approval as well, it hopefully provides some security to the neighbours that if there are any substantiated complaints, that essentially this approval will not just automatically renew, and it also gives, I guess, the owners of the property some time to recoup that capital investment that they'll need to input on the property with the privacy screen itself. And I think this is the most sensible option that we can go down as a council.
Do I have a speaker against the motion? Councillor Ogle?
I have serious issues with this particular application and with Airbnbs more broadly, just in the current climate. With this particular one, I think your home is your sanctuary, and we saw today that anybody can come and sit on that balcony and look into their backyard. Anybody can sit in that balcony 3 feet from an 8-year-old's bedroom. Anyone can sit in that house across the road from a school, and I don't know that this is the right place for an Airbnb. More broadly, I think we need to consider the fact that we've got a tight housing market. The GEDC have just released a paper on that. We've got aged care, disability care screaming out for workers, and we've got nowhere for the workers to live. We can't recruit them from outside of the Shire because there's nowhere to house them. And we've got Airbnbs floating around the town empty because people aren't in them right now. Yes, they're going to be flat out in summer and over the school holidays, but for the rest of the year we've got locals scrambling to find a place to live, and I think we should prioritise locals.
Mr. Graham is the second. Would you like to speak for the motion?
I'd just like to thank the officers for making the adjustments and putting sufficient things in place to make sure that the management of this house is, as a holiday home is within acceptable standards. So thank you.
I have a speaker against the motion. Councillor Mulligan.
Through you, Mr Chair, I'd like to speak against the motion for the exact reasons that were outlined by Councillor Oborne, but with the additional issue in relation to the unique configuration of the properties in terms of the acoustics and the visual issues that relate to it. So that
Do I have a speaker for the motion? A speaker against? Councillor Adler.
I'd like to speak against this motion, simply because we did visit the property today, and we did see that from the balcony of this dwelling that we could see directly into the neighbour's property, and you could see by the bareness of this neighbour's property at the back yard there that they were definitely impacted by this dwelling. So for me to have short stay accommodation, that would be very worrying. I think that would be better left as a tenanted property, just because it's a safety, privacy issue, and you should be able to know who your neighbours are on a daily basis. Thank you.
Do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against?
I would just like to reiterate what Councillors Oborne, Flanagan and O'Donnell have said. It's exactly what I was going to say. My concern is for the children in the yards next door, the children across the street. We don't know who's going into these type of accommodations, and it is worrying that the possibility is there for undesirable people to be in there, especially with young children next door and across the road.
Do I have a speaker for the motion? Speaker against? If there's no further speakers, I take it you're ready to vote. Those, right of reply, my apologies. Thank you. I take it if there's no further speakers, you're ready to vote. Those for, those for the motion? Those against? Lost 2 seats. 2 seats, yep. So, Mr. Henley?
Just through the chair, now that you have voted against the approval, you actually need to refuse the development, or else it's just staying on the system.
So I need someone to move a motion that the development is
Refused and grounds for its refusal.
Councillor Muller, do you have some wording in and around that?
Do you want me to fill in the motion for you? The council refused development application 10.2001.4783.1 for a change of use of strata lot 114 being Walker Street, West Beach for the following reasons. 1, impact on visual amenity, and 2, impact on the amenity of the area.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Oborne. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor McMullen?
I don't think this requires any further discussion.
No speakers against? Did the seconder wish to speak to it? So we're ready to vote for that? Those in favour? Those against? 8-0. This was to be easy for me for the first one, was it not?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, councillors. We'll go on to item 12.1.8 on page 81. Advertising within the airport terminal. Sorry about that. Do I have any questions? Do I have anybody wanting to move the motion, which is on page 83, or an alternate motion? Councillor O'Donnell, the seconder. Councillor De Haas.
I move the officer's recommendation 1 through to 4.
Apologies, I get ahead of myself. Would you like to speak to your...
I don't think it needs speaking to, thank you. Self-explanatory.
Is there a speaker against the motion? Seconder, wish to speak towards?
No.
No speakers against. Do we have a vote? Those in favour? Those against? 8-0 again. Right. Item 12.2.1, the request for tanker jetty timber on page 84. So the report is on 84. The recommendation is on page 85. Do I have any questions in relation to this motion? Do I have someone wanting to move the motion? Councillor De Haas, can you just read the motion for me?
Officer's recommendation that council donate 36 grade 2 deck planks to South Regional TAFE for their entry statement at the newly constructed Esperance TAFE campus.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Flanagan? Do you wish to speak to the motion, councillors? Is there a speaker against? Seconder wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
No speakers against, no further speakers for. Ready to take a vote. Those in favour? Those against? Okay. Next item is 12.2.2, lot 12 Kerwin Road trees on page 92, with an officer's recommendation on page 94. Do I have any questions?
Can I just add a clarification on that? I heard yesterday from Mr. Parker to say that he'd been in contact with the tree company that apparently has been able to source some insurance. So I haven't followed that up, but just to advise council that it may be possible now to get insurance. But I think, regardless, I think our recommendation would still stand anyhow as it is. But just if that does change anything.
With that information, do I have anyone with any questions? Councillor McMullen.
When do you think we'll find out about this insurance? Are we talking, would we have all the information by next OCM?
Look, I don't, normally we would go through local government insurance services for it. They would normally broker it on our behalf. So it would be an unusual insurance arrangement if I found out that this other tree company was able to gain insurance, and then whether they would be prepared to insure us. So I couldn't give you a time frame on it, or even essentially what the premium might be on it as well. So look, it could be possible, but I think our recommendation would still be, as we're saying, to remove the trees and wood chip them now anyhow.
Just ask a question. Would the tender not necessarily be acceptable then? Would that be a part of the tender document, that any tender not necessarily be accepted?
So all the tenders would come back to council anyhow to make a decision on, and at that point in time you could accept no tenders. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further questions? Do I have anyone that wishes to move the motion, or a motion?
I'd like to move an alternative motion
Certainly.
that we lay this matter on the table until the November OCM to allow us time to seek more clarification about the insurance for the trees.
Do I have a second for that? Councillor O'Donnell, do you wish to speak to that?
Look, obviously, there's a a potential risk out there. We've had this parcel of land for a number of years now. I can't see there being that much extra risk in holding it for another 30 odd days. And it may be more strategic if we can hold this asset insured for a little bit longer until the market picks up. So for the sake of 30 odd days, I think it may be wise to lay it on the table. Obviously, we could go out to tender and still seek the clarification on insurance, but I guess that could potentially be a waste of staff time and resources in preparing a tender that we may not actually end up needing. So for the sake of 30 days, I would suggest lay this matter on the table and deal with it at the November OCM.
All right, so a speaker against? The second who wishes to speak to it?
I just agree with Councillor McMullen, thank you.
No further discussion? Take it you're ready to vote. Those in favour? Happy with that? We'll go to item 12.3.1, which is the Audit Committee, Bushfire Advisory Committee, Esperance Goldfields Country Zone of Walga and G-Rock, and appointments of members. It's on page 95. Not sure with.
Through you, Chair, when this report was submitted, we omitted the terms of reference to be adopted with the committees.
Yep.
So can we have the alternate motion to adopt with the terms of reference for the audit and bushfire audit advisory committees?
Okay, so we'll do that. So if anyone wants to move that off as a recommendation that includes the terms of reference, we will need to organise appointments of members first. Thank you for that. Can I ask for nominations for the Audit Committee?
Can I just question?
Yep, sorry.
Can I just question whether Councillor Mickle needs to be sort of co-opted on a couple of these committees as a...
You can go on the Audit Committee.
Councillor Mickle hasn't advised me, so yeah, maybe I could seek clarification from him if you want me to give him a call or something. Well, I'll do that now if you wish.
I think he would, yeah, because I know he is fairly involved in the Audit Committee and has done in the past.
And perhaps the...
Can we suspend standing? Well, Councillor Opal?
Can I please move that we suspend standing orders to practice?
Seconded. Councillor McMullen, those in favour? So, did you want to call? Yeah, if you give him a call and just ask him, please.
Shane, I think it's the president automatically should be on the audit committee.
It's also the general.
Oh, okay, sure, yep. He's checking for the other committees as well.
Yeah, but he's got an automatic right. He can kick others off.
Can I just seek a bit of clarification on this, because it's
I
asking...
want to go on a committee.
Hang on, guys.
Can I just seek clarification? It's asking for 4 councillor members on the audit committee and no deputies. I think previously it was two members and 2 deputies. Is that just no?
No, it was 4 members.
Well, there's one member is the public member. No.
Currently, we've got Ian, Joe, and myself, Steve, as committees.
Yep.
And others.
Yep. So that's the 4 that are on it currently. Thomas, thanks for making this easy.
So while we're still in suspended standing orders, who is putting their hand up for the audit
Well, we can
committee?
make that discussion now too.
Yeah.
Who wants to put their hands up for the audit committee? Can we just,
Councillor Flanagan.
Councillor Flanagan is one.
What day is it going to meet?
That's for the audit
The
committee to decide.
committee can determine
Yeah.
those days.
Yep. Well, I haven't nominated myself yet. I've been on the audit committee for the last 4 years, but I just thought I'd see if other people wanted to put their hand up for it, I was going to give them the first bite of the apple.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm easy.
One we're just having a discussion about who's going to do that. The GROC would need to give some other room, sorry. No, quite often we get away from the meetings, and we'll meet at you meetings.
Maybe two away.
Yeah, but they generally won't have the meetings on a council meeting day anyhow. So I don't think it would exclude the deputy being on it. I don't see that as a big issue.
We'll see what happens. Okay, so do we want to continue to discuss this before we go back into standing order, in standing orders?
Mhm.
So those people that, whilst we're here, could we pull up that table, please, for the members that we need? So audit committee, Councillor Mickles has said that he would like to nominate for it. Councillor Flanagan has said that he will nominate for it.
I nominate Councillor McMullen.
We need two other councillors that willing to nominate for the audit
Look,
committee.
I'm happy to. Yep.
Councillor McMullen.
I will nominate Councillor Flanagan as the chair, though. Just foreshadowing that.
And Councillor O'Donnell will also nominate that.
Good job, guys.
Bushfire Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I'll nominate for the chair.
Can we have a deputy for the Bushfire Advisory? The deputy for the Bushfire Advisory Committee? I already sit on the Bushfire Advisory Council as the Deputy Senior Urban Rural Fire Control Officer.
What did he say he wanted?
Oh,
No,
I
he
didn't specifically ask him about the Bushfire Advisory Committee, but I dare say he'd probably be okay.
He'd be happy with that. So we,
I nominate Councillor McMullen.
It's only two
Yep.
meetings.
so the GROC Councillor Mickle has also said that he would like to be on the GROC.
Yeah.
Look, I would also nominate for GROC. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed my time on GROC, and if councillors are happy with that. Is that all the ones that we needed to nominate?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, could I have someone move that we, Councillor McMullen?
I'd like to move a motion that we resume standing orders.
Seconded, Councillor Oborne. Do I have a vote on that? Those in favour? Okay, as stated before, if we're moving this motion, it needs to be the one that includes the terms of reference, which are up on the board. So do I have any further questions in regards to this motion, or in regards to this item? Do I have someone that wishes to move the motion? Councillor McMullen, Councillor Oborne, second. Councillor McMullen, would you like to speak to it?
No, I don't think we'd need to speak to this one. Thank you.
Any speakers against? Seconder, would you care to speak to it?
I think that everybody in those positions has a strong skill set in those particular committees, and I thank you for your service to the community.
Is there any further speakers? Those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yep. Look out. I think Councillor O'Donnell's name's going to be in all of them next year. Item 12.3.2, the lease agreement for the Gibson Public Toilets on page 98. And the officer's recommendation is on page 99. Do you have any questions in regards to this? Do you have anyone that wants? Councillor?
Yes, at the agenda briefing, somebody asked a question as to whether there was the option to extending the lease term out longer than 12 months. So I was just wondering if there was any clarification on that.
Yes, through you, Chair. There's no appetite from the lessor to extend the lease beyond the 12 months.
Thank you.
Have any?
No, I'm going to move the motion. I thought you were going to put it in.
Fine. If you can read the motion.
Officer's recommendation. Yes, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Have a seconder for that? Councillor De Haas, I was looking that way. Would you like to speak to it?
No, I'll just.
Speaker against? The seconder like to speak to it? Any speakers against? No further discussion. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 12.3.3, Lease Regional Express Airport checkout days, page 98. Is that right? Page 100. My apologies. Page 100, with the officer's recommendation, is on page 102. Do you have any questions regarding this item? Do I have anyone wishing to move a motion? Councillor Graham?
Yeah, just move the officer's recommendation on the, thank you.
Do I have a second for that? Councillor O'Donnell? Do you wish to speak to that? Councillor Graham?
Yeah, no, this is just pretty straightforward, and it aligns the lease to the contract that the operators have, Rex operation has at the airport, so it coincides at the same time. Thank you.
Do I have a speaker against? The seconder, would you like to speak for?
No, thank you. I think it's self-explanatory.
Speaker against? The speakers for? End of discussion. I take it you're ready to vote. Those in favour? 8-0. Item 12.3.4, the Financial Services Report, September 2001, on page 104. And the officer's recommendation is also on 104 in the attachments. Do I have any questions in regards to this motion? Or this item, sorry. If there are no questions, do I have anyone wanting to move a motion? Councillor Flanagan, if you could just read the motion, please, Councillor Flanagan.
I move that the officer's recommendation that council receive the attached report entitled Monthly Financial Management Report incorporating the statement of financial activity for the month of September 2021.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Oborne, do you wish to speak to it? You can.
No, thank you, Chair.
The speaker against? Do you wish to speak to it as a seconder, Councillor Oborne? No further speakers? Take it ready to vote. Those in favour? It's 8-0. 153. Item 12.3.5, vacant land for sale by tender. It's on page 153. The officer's recommendation is on pages 155 and 156. Do I have any questions regarding this item? Do I have anyone that wants to move the motion? Councillor Oborne.
I would like to move the officer's recommendation, points 1 through 4.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor McMullen. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Oborne?
It's just simply an opportunity to give the CEO the chance to sell the land again to renew the previous opportunity.
Is there a speaker against? Seconder wish to speak for it?
As stated in the report, the CEO's delegated authority only lasts 6 months. It's lapsed, and we still want to sell the properties, so let's carry on.
Is there a speaker against? Or a speaker for? Take it you're ready to vote on the motion. Those in favour? 8-0. Okay. I need to lift his game. Item 12.3.6 on page 161 is waiver of civic centre hire fees. Look at that. What did you do to my computer? Yeah, you said if it breaks down, I'm going to need a hard copy. No, it doesn't want to play the game. Come back. Sorry. Somebody's got me using new computers and it's decided it doesn't want to play the game. Thank you very much, Ms Phillips. So page 163 with the officer's recommendation on page 165. Do you have any questions in relation to this?
62.
162, sorry, my apologies. I've got to get used to using old technology. Do I have any questions in regards to this? I have one, if I may. That one there?
Yeah, that's the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, I'd actually like to move or make an addition, amend the recommendation that council waive the civic hire or due to the, and I had the wording and now it's, my computer's not working. It was along the lines of due to the relevance that Mr Mulgett had to the civic centre, that we waived the fees. I would just like to see if I can change that wording in respect or in regards to the outstanding service, eh? Yeah, the connection. The council waived due to the outstanding connection.
Outstanding service and connection to the city.
Yeah, service and connection to the civic centre. And the Shire of Esperance for the memorial service, yeah. So does that read right? Council waived the incident fee due to the outstanding service in connection to the civic centre.
It should be,
for the memorial service.
should be due to his outstanding service.
So it's maybe due to his connection to the civic centre and his outstanding service to the Shire of Esperance.
Councillor Abel.
Would you just keep first sentence the way it is, so people know what the motion's about, and then maybe second sentences, that's clarifying why? Because at the moment you're putting the rationalisation into the middle of the content, breaking the content up.
I defer that to you.
That council one waived the civic centre fees associated with memorial service of Mr Melvin Mulgett, and two, due to the connection of the civic centre and its outstanding service to the Shire of Esperance.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
So that council and then one waived the civic centre fees. So you've already got it there. So on the one above, that council one waived. So just make that as two, due to his connection to the civic centre and outstanding service to the Shire of Esperance, and then full stop.
So I move that motion. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Horan. if I just speak to it, I just believe that it needs to have a rationale around why we're waiving the fees. Otherwise, I believe it could leave the Shire open to pretty much anyone asking us to waive the fees for a memorial service. It's not a usual thing for us to waive the fees for the Civic Centre, but I think that due to the service and in respect to Mr. Mulder, that we do that.
Councillor, just before I may, page 163 is the actual civic centre policy. It worked out everything there. It says in the policy to ensure that the civic centre hire fees are not waived unless extenuating circumstances. So is it worth noting that these are extenuating circumstances? So it sort of fits along the policy.
Yeah, obvious connection instead of and. Okay. Due to the extenuating circumstances.
Extenuating, not extenuated.
Yep. Okay, thank you. No worries. Okay, so
You did remove number 1, the council waivers.
No, that
So I think,
it's up top there. That's still there. Yep, that's still on. Do I have a speaker against? Would you wish to speak to it as a seconder?
Yeah. Great respect for Neville. Him and I are good mates. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you. Do I have any further speakers? Those in favour? Cheers. Thank you very much. 8-0. Sorry, I meant to have that. I had a note on my computer for that, and it doesn't want to play the game. That's right. Item 12.4.1 on page 164, Common Seal usage July 2021 to September 2021. With the officer's recommendation on page 165. Do I have any questions regarding this item? Do I have anyone that wishes to move the motion? Councillor Horan? Move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that the council receives the report titled The Shire of Esperance Common Seal Usage for the period of July 2021 to September 2021.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Graham? Do you wish to speak to it?
No.
Anyone speak against? Do you speak for it? There are no further speakers. I'll take it to vote. Those in favour? 8-0. Those against? Thank you. Item 12.4.2, Information Bulletin, September 2021. It's on page 167. The officer's recommendation is also on page 167 with the attached Are there any questions regarding this item? Can I have anyone wish to move the motion? Councillor De Haas.
Officer's recommendation that council accepts items 1 to 6 of the information bulletins.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Flanagan, do you wish to speak to? No? Do you wish to speak to this?
I thank you, Chair.
Are there any further speakers? Ready to vote? Those in favour? 8. Item 12.4.3. Page 229. if anyone was going to break it, it was always going to be me. Agenda briefing and ordinary council dates for 2022. That's on page 229 with the officer's recommendation on page 230. But we also need to fill in the item on number 3. So just, firstly, are there any other questions in regards to this motion? Do I have anyone that? No, that's because we always go to the outlying areas for our September meeting. So the first year 2 years ago, 12 months ago, we went out to Cascades. This year we went to Conningham. So I guess the question in point 3 is whether we go to Grass Patch or Salmon Gums. Skadden or Dahlia, but yeah, in the Brenda briefing sessions. Yes. I was going to say, do I have anyone that wants a question on that?
Where have we not been? Like, I know we've been to Salmon Gums to talk about the water stand. You know, did we go to Grass Patch about the waste management site? So have we been to Skadden for any reason recently?
Full council have been there. We've been there with their hall replacement.
Okay, so we've been everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Through the chair, you might actually struggle with their venue.
Skadden?
Essentially, it might at Skadden.
Yep.
So
Unless we all
do
take a
stuff
hammer and
behind
nails.
closed doors and the like.
Okay.
It might be better to go there once their upgrade's complete.
Good point.
Do I have a suggestion from council as to where we should go for that September meeting? Councillor O'Donnell?
I think perhaps we should return to Salmon Gums. However, would the water stand be finished by that?
Just checking.
Just checking. To perhaps talk about the other hall that we need to talk about.
I feel like Councillor O'Donnell, if you want to move that motion with the addition of Salmon Gums.
Okay, I'll move that.
Wish to formally move?
Yes, I would that council agree to hold the agenda briefing at 1 p.m. on the third Tuesday of every month, commencing to January 2022, with the following exception: A, the December briefing, which will be moved forward 1 week. 2, agree to the attached schedule of ordinary council meeting dates from January 2022 until December 2022, with the following exception: A, the December ordinary council meeting, which will be moved forward 1 week. 3, agree to hold the September ordinary council meeting at Salmon Gums. And 4, request the Chief Executive Officer to undertake all statutory advertising in this regard.
Do I have a second to that motion? Councillor Dahas? Do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Speaker against? Speaker for? Would you like to speak for? Do I have any further speakers for or against? Those for the motion? And those against? 8 Milligan. Do I break it properly? So we'll go to item 13.1 on page 232, which is the Greater Sports Ground Redevelopment Master Plan. So the reports, well, it starts on page 232 and the officer's recommendation is on 234. Do I have any questions in regards to this item?
Through you, Chair, I'd just like it noted that I have, notwithstanding that this process has been a wonderful example of collaboration with all the parties concerned, I would just like it recorded that my concern is just in relation to the footprint that the Ag Society still retains, and that it continues to be sufficient for them to hold the annual agricultural show. Thank you.
That will be noted. Do you have any further questions? Do you have anyone that wishes to move the motion? Councillor Graham.
Information. I move the committee recommendation that council endorse the attached Greater Sports Ground Redevelopment Master Plan 2021 to 2041.
Do I have a second of that, Councillor McMullen? Do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, just like to thank for this has obviously been a long effort to get all the associated parties to make some agreements, and I take that on notice about the Ag Society, and they're probably the ones that have given up more than they were originally planning on doing, but I think they've seen the sense of coming together and being happy with what this final master plan is. So thank you one and all.
Or a speaker against? A seconder wish to speak for the plan?
Yeah, I just second Councillor Graham's comments and commend the staff for the fantastic job here. A lot of work has gone into this and a lot of collaboration with so many different user groups that utilise the Greater Sports Ground, and I think this just creates a really, really nice, achievable vision for our Greater Sports Ground for the coming 20 years. So thank you, and I urge Council to support this motion.
Do any speakers against? Speakers for? If that's the end of discussion, I'll take a vote. Those in favour? Thank you. Move on to item number 13.2, minutes of committees on page 256. With the officer's recommendation. Do I have any questions on this item? Councillor McMullen?
No, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that Council accept the following unconfirmed minutes. 1, Greater Sports Ground Redevelopment Committee, 23rd of September 2021, and 2, the Bushfire Advisory Committee, 14th of September 2021.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Flanagan, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Speaker against? Do you wish to speak to it as a seconder?
No, thank you, Chair.
Any further speakers? Ready to take a vote? Those in favour? So that concludes that part of the meeting. Motions of which notice has been given. Do we have any? None? Members' questions with or without notice? Are there any members' questions with or without notice? No? Urgent business approved by decision? There is none. And matters behind closed doors, there is none? None? And that leads us to the final one, which is public question time. Do I have any members of the public that wish to speak? No? In that case, I thank you very much, everyone, for attending the meeting and making it nice and easy for me. And I'll declare the meeting closed.